The Amped EV podcast is sponsored by Autel Energy. Visit autelenergy.com for more information.
Hello and welcome back to the Amped EV podcast. My name is David. I am the editor for The Buzz.
And I'm Jason Morgan, content director for Fleet Equipment.
What's up?
I'm back.
He's back.
I'm back. Yeah, you finally. I've been locked outside the studio for like 5 months. I know you changed the locks. You changed the keypad.
We figured you'd done your time. It's time to bring it back.
Yeah, you locked me. Well, I got the keys, and now I'm back in the castle, and I am amped. There we go.
You know, honestly,
wow. Feels good.
People have been chanting your name every episode that you've been gone. Said, okay, we'll give the people what we want.
You know, well, I mean, there's a difference between like enthusiasm and an angry mob. I mean, it's a fine line.
We did not read.
They were just catching
what kind of chant it was
on the episodes, so they were angry.
So we're having you in today to talk about electric trucks.
Yeah,
because you just went to the work truck.
I went to every show there is.
Every show.
True. There was every show in the past 3 months.
And the thing is, EVs tend to be something that comes up at just about every one of these shows.
It pops up.
It pops up.
Passing.
It pops up.
It's not like it starts every conversation.
But not that long ago, that wasn't the case. I mean, this is a fairly recent thing. So tell me a little bit about Work Truck Show, what you saw there as far as EVs are concerned.
Yeah, sure. Well, let me. Can I take you on a journey? I'll take you on a journey of my past.
My eyes?
Yes, if you will. Now, picture a sea of equipment, and like you feel like every piece of equipment is electrified now, because that's what it felt like at Work Truck Show. So let me work backwards here. Work Truck Show was the last show I was at. If you had, sorry, you can open your eyes now. Either that, we're gonna have to lay it out, and I'll pontificate a little more. But so Work Truck. I mean, I swear, if there were 6 OEM press conferences the first day, everyone was battery electric, Isuzu, Mack, Hino, I mean, you name it, everyone was coming out. I did a walk around. Now, Navistar's had their EMV out for a while, but I got to walk around to that and saw the developments there. So there was a lot going on. What's happening, though, is that like we've seen EVs come into the class 7, 8 space in the heavy-duty world, that is coming into the work truck space. And when I say work truck space, that encompasses a lot of vocations. Really, right now, I think they're targeted in EVs in terms of pickup and delivery. So box trucks, right? Or the UPS brown type trucks that you see running around the neighborhood, right? So those will be the first applications that those go into. And, you know, my question was always, well, why didn't this happen first? Because the routes tend to be shorter. They tend to be stop and go. They tend to be back at base. And I think what it comes down to is, finding the right options for people. And then in that work truck world, it's you have the manufacturer and then the upfitter, right? And the upfitter or bodybuilder is someone that puts the body of the thing on the truck. So the truck is the cab and the frame rails, and then they put on the box or the dry van, or they put on the vacuum truck for a utility, or a bucket truck for a utility, or any other kind of truck you see running around. That's a separate entity that does that. And so the OEMs and bodybuilders work very closely together to make sure there's space on the frame rails for them to bolt their equipment to, and the electrical runs the way they want it to. And I mean, there's a whole subset of truck specking that is complicated enough without EVs that those partners work on. Absolutely. So I think it took a little bit of time to come to the work truck market, just because they have to get those partners aligned. They put the batteries on the frame rails. That eats into the room that bodybuilders have to work with, right? Yeah. So that was work truck. So lots of excitement there. It feels a lot like the heavy duty side maybe 2 years ago, year and a half ago, when everybody was launching, and this is great.
Yeah.
On the flip side, the show before that, TMC, now this is the more of a fleet management, maintenance-focused, heavy-duty show, right? So the attendants here are fleet managers and maintenance managers, the guys whose job it is to keep the trucks running and fix the trucks and keep them going, was quiet on EVs. Very quiet. Okay. A lot of the conversation there was data and service and tires. Which is very much in TMC's wheelhouse. Last year was a little heavier on the EV side. I think because of the interest, because the trucks were rolling into the market and they were really wondering
I mean, there's not a lot of them out there yet, right? So maintenance, we don't know what we don't know.
Right, and I think the takeaway from TMC was fleets want training. It's kind of slow to come because the trucks, to your point, are slow to come out. And so it's just, if last year was the acceptance of EV and we're going to move forward on this and we're going to have to maintain them, this year was kind of a holding pattern for maintenance. They weren't really, there were still calls for it, but then also, we have a lot of other stuff we're dealing with. Service and tire data kind of flooded in on the narrative and kind of took over there. Predictive maintenance as well. Take a step back, I went to Geotab Connect. So we've talked to Geotab, Charlotte Argy on that side with their EV suitability assessment, right? Data, right? So the role of data on EVs. Now that's a user conference basically where Geotab they had it annually, and then the pandemic.
And Geotab is on, millions of vehicles out there.
3.2 million vehicles, right? So one of the biggest vehicle telematics provider in the world. What was striking was the number of EVs on their show floor. So a lot of the times the data and technology user conferences, lots of booths, but not a ton of equipment because it's data solutions data. But there was a ton of equipment here. Lots of EVs, from vans to larger, kind of those work truck size, class 1 through 3 EVs. And their whole thing is that, in addition to the EV suitability assessment, where they have the tool that tells you if you're ready to go EV, all the data that kind of bakes into the sustainability drive, right?
Okay.
They're looking at look, yes, there's EVs, but it's a larger part of decarbonization and move toward sustainability. In talking with Geotab on the sustainability side, it's this idea that they can take all your data and break it into manageable chunks of what technology is available today, what you can do today reasonably and make money with, and then what your journey will look like. So it's not so much EVs 100% go for it. It's let's look at your data and your operations. Let's look at the solutions that are available and viable in the market, and then let's map out your journey, which honestly, as we talk more about this, is a little bit more of a easier pill to swallow, right? It's not as exciting to talk about. But it's a realistic view of how we move there.
And, the commercial side it's so much different than the consumer side where, as a consumer, it's much easier for me comparatively to just say, hey, I'm all in on EVs. I'm going to go buy myself an electric powered car. And, now I'm more sustainable and all that. If you are on the commercial side and you're running a fleet, that's a whole nother story. You're talking about installing crazy amounts of infrastructure potentially and, converting this fleet of, diesel-powered trucks that you've invested thousands and thousands of dollars into this whole new thing. And you're worried about all these different maintenance parts and pieces and things. So when you're talking the commercial side, I can see how Geotab is focusing more on, hey, we're looking more at sustainability. It doesn't have to be we're all electric powered now. Let's go there. It is, hey, what can you do to make your fleet more sustainable? Because there are these kind of rules coming down from state governments or federal governments that are saying, hey, these fleets, you need to increase your sustainability if you want to keep rolling.
Right. I like how you say that on the consumer side, because I don't know if you've seen new car prices, but the pay grade for the host of AMP must be really different from the pay grade of the co-host of AMP. So I think you showed your cards there a little, Mr. Sickles.
Fair.
Because holy smokes, I don't know what deals you have. But no, going back to it. Yeah, Geotab wants to be integrated with OEM data. They want to use fleet data, and they want to figure out solutions. And then real quickly, the first show, the last I'll talk about, the first show of the year I was at, which you wouldn't expect maybe a ton of EV chatter, was HDAW. So this is Heavy Duty Aftermarket Week. So this is the entire heavy duty aftermarket coming together. And lots of electrification buzz there.
I like
Still, in terms of parts and solutions lagging behind, infrastructure and charging equipment, I think, is coming up big there. In that segment. But one fun little wrinkle narrative that is coming out is the idea of the sustainability impact of using remanufactured parts versus new parts.
Okay.
How that impacts carbon footprint, waste. And so, it just goes to show the entire industry from every aspect, from aftermarket to maintenance to new trucks to work trucks, all trying to figure out the sustainability piece. What it means, everyone knows we have to get to a certain point relatively quickly in 2040 and 2050. So now you're really starting to see the market try to figure out what that means.
Interesting. Okay. do you have any thoughts on Cummins? Cummins introduced a new brand, Accelera, which is more focused on the zero emissions side of things.
Yes.
But you think Cummins, you think of diesel engines. So what is the story here? Why are they investing so much? Why are they creating this new brand for this zero emission side?
Right. So, my take on this will not be as hot as maybe maybe people might think it is. I think you hit it on the head. It's a new brand. So, like, look, hydrogen fuel cells, battery, electric, e-axles, traction systems, electrolyzers, all things Cummins has been doing. They call it new power, right? That was their new power, Cummins' new power business. Now it's called Accelera.
And we saw a little wrinkle of this last year at ACT Expo, I believe, with their kind of hybrid hydrogen diesel engine. Is that right?
Yeah, well, and I think, so again, I don't know the details and I haven't talked to Cummins yet. I have something scheduled with them later here in the coming months, but it seems to me that the ICE will still stay with Cummins. So whether that's natural gas or hydrogen or gasoline even or diesel, that is still Cummins. The Accelera, again, now this is just my own personal take. This is not, I have no actual information on this. I'm just like you all looking at it from the outside in, right? But it's interesting that they differentiate it from that Cummins name, right? If they might be, and again, the Cummins is very strong in terms of diesel engine recognition, right?
Yes.
So do you need another brand that kind of speaks toward maybe some of how quickly the market's moving, right? Accelera is kind of fun in terms of it is moving fast. People do need solutions. How you balance that from a huge brand with tons of brand equity there, all in combustion engines versus a lot of the new power stuff, and it's all zero emissions, right?
Right.
So this is their move to bring, it's not Cummins' new power, it's now Accelera.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of gives a little freshness. It's things that they have been working on for years. I talked to them last May or June about all of this, right? So it's to your point, new branding, bringing it under one umbrella, and not so that it, at least to me, it doesn't feel like a Cummins side thing.
Exactly.
Power, we're working on
That's
it. It's like,
thought.
no, these are products we're bringing to the market, and we're going to bring it under this brand and help you kind of accelerate
Nice.
that transition.
I mean, personally, I really like the name, but also I think the new branding, it kind of shows that, hey, we're putting a lot of work into this. We've got teams that are dedicated to this part of our business, as opposed to, if they kept it under the Cummins name, maybe, I don't know, from the outside looking in, you might think people are kind of splitting their time here. It's good to have, its own separate entity for what's going on.
Right. No, they're 100. I'd caught them up with them at the shows. They are 100% dedicated to the zero emissions. They call it Destination Zero, right? They're 100% committed to that. This is a big way for what they're doing, and that branding indicates that as well. But stepping back though too, and Geotab's point of view and the decarbonization point of view, and I think what we're seeing too, one of the other big trends is that the path on which we get there, right? So again, going back 7 and 8, lots of big excitement. But again, I personally feel like we've come up and we've kind of hit a plateau there.
Yeah.
And in some anecdotal stuff, infrastructure is really difficult right now. So you have the first wave of Class 7, 8 adopters that have adopted the trucks. They put the infrastructure in. You got that larger wave right behind them that has interest, right? But and the equipment's available. It's evolving. But the infrastructure is just such a challenge. It's so specific to your area, your state, and your utility that there's no magic bullet there. And so that's kind of plateaued. I think what we're seeing in work truck now in that Class 1 through 6 market is that first initial wave coming up, right? Where you have all those trucks that are going to become available in 24.
Yes.
And that's all exciting. We'll see how they do in terms of what they can do in infrastructure. Do they kind of hit the same plateau? Does it break through because they're a couple of years behind on where Class 7, 8 is pushing? You got regulation coming in California that says you're going to have to buy a zero-emission vehicle to some degree. So there's a lot of things in the works there. Really, the sticking point right now is that infrastructure piece, and it's just going to take time and work and effort, advocacy, education. It's kind of a thing.
It's a lot
right now.
It's a lot to deal with. One last point I wanted to talk about with you. ACT Research, they came out with a report in mid-March saying that they expect 2023 EVs are going to triple production as compared to 2022. Now that sounds
That's a
like
fun headline.
EVs for everyone. What does that really mean?
I took a sip at the wrong time, but yes, I mean, they also said that it accounts for less than 1% of total truck production. Now, if you look at 2022 overall truck production, it was 309,615 vehicles.
Vehicles, not just EVs.
No, all in.
All in.
Commercial vehicles, 309,615.
So we're talking 1% of that.
1%, and that's easy math because you just do decimal points. I didn't know that, though. I didn't use a percentage calculator because I'm an editor and I don't understand numbers, but I did double check it, right? So really, if you take just 1% of that is 3,096 trucks.
So, triple that, we're just under 10,000?
Well, less than 1%.
Less than
1%.
Okay.
So, yeah, if that triple will account for less than the 3,000, there's still a long ways to go. Now, again, that's not, I know that's kind of a harsh reality to put it in, but it's, again, going back to the idea of, okay, well, where do we get to where we need to be, right? Where we need to be in 2040. I mean, you look at 2040 where a number of the truck OEMs have said they're going to have an all zero emission lineup by then. You look at 2050, which is just kind of like the end of days deadline that scientists have set out. Okay, so how do we get to that, right? Let's take in consideration that, hey, production will triple. That's a real number. It's still a small majority of truck or a small minority of trucks because of course it is, because it's not meeting all the applications. But we're seeing, and that's 23. These work trucks we were talking about earlier, 24, right? So what does that mean when those come into the market, right? And look, I'm still, again, this is my own personal take. On the Class 8 side, we're going to need something else for long haul. You're going to need hydrogen fuel cell. At this point, the way it's looking, we're going to need something else. Those are the trucks on the highways that are moving tons of goods. I mean, there was, I off the top of my head, the last 4 months of last year, more than 100,000 of those ordered. In the last quarter, last 4 months going into this year, right? There's a lot of Class A trucks for that.
Yes.
That will be, so all these segments, once all these segments align with zero emission solutions, that's when we'll start to see a larger tipping point in terms of sustainability.
I do wonder if it triples this year, is it going to triple next year? Are we looking at a hockey stick here kind of graph,
Well, again, if it fits the application and the numbers work, then great. Infrastructure, again, that's got to get figured out, but there's a lot of money being pumped into that in terms of what the government's doing on the Inflation Reduction Act, and then even what you look at what Daimler Trucks is doing with some of their partnerships. You look at Volvo Trucks, they're partnering with truck stops to put EV charging in as well. So we're getting there. Hockey stick, maybe, slow. I don't know. Nothing good happens quickly, right? So that's my take. Nothing good happens quick. So
solid take.
Let's do this right. So, and I think the market's going there. I think that a big takeaway for me is I'll have Ashley pull out the "it's happening" GIF again because it is happening.
Yeah.
The reality is okay, how are we going to get there, right? You want to go on vacation with your family. You want to get to the beach. The highway's closed. You're still going to go.
Right.
We'll figure this out. Yeah. We might need to look at a map.
Yeah. Atlas?
Yeah. Let's call it the Rand McNally. They still print it. We love it.
Absolutely.
Let's go.
It sounds good. Thank you very much for the insight. It's always interesting to see, where the consumer side is going and where the commercial side is going and where they're kind of meeting up in the middle there. So I really appreciate you coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was fantastic.
I'm going to chin you back up, though, because...
Yeah, no, I know.
I'll have you back.
Yeah, no, I'll have to call the locks. Get the new keys. We'll figure it out.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. We'll see you next time.